Hi, my name is Linda Weldon, and now today I'm going to tell you a story about, not a story, I shouldn't say story, but I'm going to tell you about the challenges that I've had or that the Lord has given me regarding cars. There's a lot of them. I was really surprised and pleased that after when I first got saved, I had a Pontiac, and that was the best car that I ever had. I think I got it from one of my brothers or something. But anyway, it was a really good car. But then I got a Toyota, and that thing was the craziest thing. You would not believe it. It was a stubborn car. It had a mind of its own. We could be driving along when all of a sudden the motor would die and it wouldn't start. How disgusting is that? Was God playing tricks on me? I don't think so. One day it quit right in the middle of Main Street. By that time I was so discouraged with that car that I told the Lord if He let me sell it, that I would give the money to Him. I would give it to the church and I would sell the car and give the money to Him. And that I did. And then for the next year, the kids and I walked to church. So then after that, I met a nice lady who was willing to sell me an old Rambler, and I can't remember what year it was, but I think I only paid, $50, but she sold it to me on credit. I was able to give her just $10 here, $10 there until I got it paid off. But that old junker served a purpose. But boy, it sure looked just like it was an old junker, that we had to use strings or ropes or something to hold the door shut. And I also think we used an old rags to put in the gas tank cap though, because it didn't have a cover on. It was, but it served a purpose. I eventually got a Ford LTD that my ex-husband gave me. It was a car that I had to buy used high headlight. I got stopped one time because the headlight was out, and anyway, I had to either pay the ticket or get the light replaced. Well, I didn't have the money, so I went to have it taken in and have it fixed. So I went to the used car lot, and I bought a headlight, paid a couple dollars for it. And I took it and installed it in myself, and couldn't ever figure out why that headlight always shined up on the hill. It was later on that I found out that I had put it in upside down. It was that car that eventually made me trust in the Lord more. Every day that I had to use it, and this was later on after I had it for a while, but every morning when I'd go out to start the car, it wouldn't start. So I'd have to take the distributor cap off, take those little flaps, whatever it is, put a stick on there, go in the car and start it. Once it was started, go back out, take that little stick off there and put the distributor cap back on, and then I would be able to go the rest of the day and it would start. But it was always just in the morning that I had to do that. Well, eventually, that car came to the point where I knew I had to get rid of it. So what I did, I knew it wasn't worth anything. And before that, came winter time, I was afraid to go check for antifreeze, because at that time it was a separate water, separate antifreeze. And I was afraid to go check it because I didn't have any money to put antifreeze in there if it needed it. So I just let it go, hoping that that the Lord would let it go, and it did. It would go on. Well, finally one day, I decided I need to get rid of it. So because I knew it was on its way out. I went to one of the grocery stores. At that time, you could put a sign up there, stick a piece of paper with a note on there. So I did, and I put for sale, for demolition purposes. So anyway, a guy came and he looked at it and he bought the car. Oh, glad to get rid of it. So anyway, a couple months later, I was at the drugstore close by where I worked, and I ran into that man. And I thought, I wonder if I should say anything to him. But I went over and I started talking to him, and I was asking him about it. And he made the statement that he would never buy any more cars from a praying lady, because I had told him before he even bought it that the only thing that was holding that together was prayer. Eventually I did get another car, and I don't remember what kind it was or anything like that, but I remember that before I moved to Indianapolis that I knew it wasn't going to drive all the way down there, so I just gave it to my son. Well, I gave it to my son, but never once realized the adventures I would have with cars when I moved to Indianapolis. I will tell you more about more cars later in Indianapolis, but I'm going to end this one with this right here. Hi, my name is Linda Weldon, and today I'm going to tell you about some of the jobs and some of the circumstances concerning how the Lord provided for me as far as jobs and work-related things in Indianapolis. My first job in Indianapolis was at King's Electronics. I had gotten to Indianapolis on a Wednesday, and Monday, the following Monday, I started working at King's Electronics. And one of the things that I did there was it was interesting at first, but then toward last there, he was changing his system to go onto the computer rather than, just have a little price tag on each of the little items. So for 8 hours a day, I would stand there with a prairie knife, peeling off those little price tags on each of those little packets. So, and then to top it off, I was not allowed to talk to anybody all this time I was doing that. Well, that worked until I had put in applications at work, and I finally got a call one day from Dr. Garcia's office, and he wanted me to come in for an interview, be there at 11 o'clock. I was there by 11 o'clock, and by 1 o'clock that afternoon I was working for him.
Ready, go.
I didn't even know what my job title was there, but he didn't have anybody else working for him, so I guess you could just say I was an office manager. And I think the reason that I got that job so quickly is because his wife was working there, and she wanted out of there. She didn't want to, but he was the nicest guy. He was an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he was the nicest guy. We just had the most fun times. We just visited, we laughed, and we just had a great friendship. And I worked for him for 5.5 years. It was kind of interesting because I told him that I was a Christian and how I prayed and everything. And there would be times that he would call me at home asking me to pray for him because he couldn't find his pen. He had a gold pen and he couldn't find it, so he would call me at home and ask me to pray for him. And one time, I remember the next day, he told me he found it in his robe pocket. He was one that encouraged me to say yes instead of yeah, because coming from North Dakota, everybody yeah. But then that worked out until I came back to North Dakota, and guess what? When I came back to North Dakota, all of a sudden it's yeah. After he retired, and that's the reason I no longer work for him, because he retired, and we kept in touch. And one time, he and his wife even invited me to their home for lunch, and I thought that was very sweet of them. But the next 2 years after working for him was the most challenging time in my life. I was able to draw unemployment, but I was able to draw unemployment until it ran out, and I was working part-time. I worked for Dr. Garcia full-time, but I also had a part-time job at Jonathan Bird's cafeteria as a cashier. So I had that backup, but just working part-time as a cashier at $7 an hour isn't going to pay your rent and pay your bills. So it was really challenging, and when you're on unemployment, you have to send out, or you have to make contact. I can't even tell you how many applications and resumes I had sent out hoping to get a job with very few interviews.
3.
And all that time, my spiritual needs, my physical needs were met in a way that I could still look back and see how marvelous God provided for me in those days.